there folks, welcome back to Rule of Thumb. Today we're going to talk about something simple. We're going to talk about how to put together a cheese plate. Now, you could talk to 100 different people and you're going to get 100 different answers on this. So all this is my suggestion on how I do mine and some simple ideas that you can look at to make a inexpensive yet fun and interesting cheese plate. It is very easy to go out and spend a lot of money on very expensive cheeses, and an appetizer can become very expensive very quickly if you do that. So what I'm going to show you today is a way to do it on a smaller budget and give you some ideas of how you can bring in some local flair or even some, just general interest to your cheese plate. So I'm going to get my ingredients together, I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to show you how I do it, and see what you think. Okay folks, we're back. We're going to run through some of these ingredients here, and then I'm going to get them put together and bring you back and show you what it looks like. So, again, when you're doing a cheese plate, it's really about personal preference, what you think you will eat, because if it doesn't get eaten at your party or at your dinner, you're going to have to eat it. So, you want to keep that in mind. Now, here's a couple rules of thumb when putting together a cheese plate. I've always been told that you should always have a soft cheese. Brie, I think, is a universal. The vast majority of people will appreciate brie. You can doctor it up if you want. You can add honey, you can add nuts, you can add cranberries. I mean, there's endless amounts of things you can do with brie, and we'll probably do some of those in the future. I'll show you some other recipes for brie. So that's kind of my go-to for a soft cheese. You could also use goat cheese. You could use a mascarpone, which is like an Italian cream cheese, which you could sweeten or make it savory. I mean, there is other options for a soft cheese, and if you don't like soft cheese, don't use it. So this is my kind of go-to for a soft cheese. My favorite cheese on the planet, I think, is probably smoked Gouda. So this is always on every cheese platter I ever do, and it's usually the first cheese to go. So all of these cheeses that I'm going to show you today, I got at Aldi. This is actually smoked Gouda cheese from their collection, specialty selected. It's probably fake Gouda, but you know what? It's good and it works. So that is my go-to cheese because I love it, and also because it adds a little bit different flavor profile. I think you should always have a kind of standard cheese, a cheese that everybody's going to know. So the vast majority of people are going to know a cheddar or a mozzarella or a Monterey Jack or a Colby Jack. So I always like to have one that I say is a little bit more plain and simple because some people like that. So I always try and have one of those. And then the last thing I always try and do is try and find something that is just a little odd. Just so it's a conversation piece. So this I found at Aldi. It's Transylvanian Romanian cave cheese. Now, it's small, you see? So can you see from this side here? It's not a very big piece. Does it say on here? It's 7 ounces. So if it's not the most popular, I don't feel as bad about it, but it's just something just different enough that people will want to talk about it. So I always like to have a conversational cheese on there, something with a different flavor, a different color, whatever the case may be. So I try to stick to 3 or 4 cheeses, so those are my 3 or 4 cheeses. Okay, now I always like to have something a little salty. That's just my preference. I think it offsets things. And, when I find these, again, this comes from Aldi. These are blue cheese stuffed olives, so it kind of keeps with my cheese theme. But it also gives kind of a salty, briny offset to the creaminess and the richness of the cheese. And then just to give the alternate of that is Kalamata olives, which also add a little bit different flavor. It's a different color on your cheese plate, and it's just kind of the balance to the green olives. Now, another thing I kind of like to do sometimes is just add a kind of a bright punch of a vegetable or a fruit. So I've used strawberries, grapes, any of that kind of stuff. I found these cute little cherry tomatoes, so I thought I'd pop these on there. Just, again, something fun, different, offsets everything else. Now, the last item is crackers. I always have crackers on hand because Josh loves crackers. Josh snacks on crackers all the time. So I pretty much have a selection of crackers in my house at all times. I'm going to hold this sideways for you so you can see the whole thing. These, again, are from Aldi. They're garden vegetable. This is probably one of my favorite crackers that they carry, so I pretty much always have those on hand. Now, if I know I'm putting together a cheese plate specifically for a party, Aldi always has these. It is their assortment, 6-cracker assortment, and this is perfect for a cheese plate. It gives you a little bit of everything, and it satisfies everybody in the room. So this is kind of my go-to, and they have these at Gordon Food Service, at Aldi. I've seen them at the regular grocery store. I think I've even seen them at Sam's Club. So these are pretty easy to find, and it saves you the guesswork of buying a bunch of different boxes, and then what do you do with them? And you know, they're all in one here, and there's usually just enough for a cheese plate for a party in here. And I just supplement it with one other box, more so because I have them on hand and I like them. So that's my ingredients for the cheese plate I'm going to put together. I am going to go ahead and get some of this stuff cut up. I'm going to assemble it, and I'm going to bring you back and show you what it looks like, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it at that point. Okay, folks, we're back. I've assembled everything on my cheese board. I've actually had this cheese board for a number of years. We got it actually as a wedding gift, and we use it quite frequently. It's the perfect size, everything fits on there, and it's just beautiful. So, you can see there's a couple different principles to think of here. So, one, I always try and cut my cheeses, if possible, into different shapes. So here I've got the sharp cheddar as a little square. I've got that Transylvanian cheese as these kind of long wedges. I just took a few wedges out of the brie and stacked them on top of the brie. And then I cut the Gouda into thinner, shallower wedges. What that does is it kind of enables you to tell people what the cheeses are without having to stand there right with them. You can have them look for the shapes. So that's kind of a helpful hint that I use. The other thing I am a firm believer in is cut the cheese for them. Putting a whole block of cheese out, I find as a guest, is uncomfortable because inevitably it won't cut, or you end up, you know, smashing the cheese or making it messy, or, you know, I just find it difficult for your guests. So I always say cut up the cheese, and I typically, with the exception of brie, I typically will cut all of my cheese up ahead of time. I'll keep it in a container or containers if the flavors will cross in my fridge, and that way I don't have to put all of it out. I can put a little bit out, and it's very easy to restock because I already have it cut up ahead of time, you know, and this can be done a couple days ahead of time. It's fine. So, you know, brie's a little bit different because if you cut it up and you put it in a container, it's going to turn into a big glob. So I generally just put the whole wheel out, and like I said, I'll just cut a few wedges. I always put my olives in little dishes. I kind of, you know, try and separate them a little, and then I go around and I tuck my crackers in. Again, you're not going to get all the crackers out at once, but if you have them at the ready, they're very easy to stock. And then I just took my little tomatoes. I have them. These are little heirloom cherry tomatoes, and I just, put them in places where they looked right, so contrasting colors. I use the yellow ones with the black olives. I use these kind of dark red, with the green olives, and then I just kind of spread everything else around. And then my last tip is always have plenty of forks or knives or whatever it is that you choose to put out. I find forks are best for cheese because they can take a piece and they can put it on their plate and pull the fork out and the cheese stays on their plate, and it just seems to me to be the most convenient for a guest. So that is, you know, typically how I put it together. One of the other things that I did not mention earlier is I typically try to pick cheeses that will be usable for another dish in the future. Now, brie is kind of a standalone, but like I said, there is options of how you can use brie as, part of a dinner or a snack or lunches by doctoring it up and adding stuff to it. So that's kind of its own animal, but the Goudas, the cheddars, all that, I can use that in macaroni and cheese. I can use it in sauces. I can use it on burgers. So there's a lot of other uses I can use it for. So a couple of rule of thumbs on this one. I hope I was very clear with everything. I hope this helps you. As with most things that I show, change it, alter it, make it your own. Use flavors you love, use things you have on hand, use things that are available. This whole cheese tray, I think, if I remember correctly when I tallied it up, I think the whole thing was under $25. Now, I really went, kind of a little bit crazy on this one because I wanted to show you guys, like, the best I could do on a budget. You could have pared this back even more and probably done this for $10 or $15 if you wanted, because you really could have gotten away with 2 cheeses or 3 cheeses. You didn't need both olives. You didn't need the tomatoes. You could use stuff that you have around your house that you could decorate with that's food safe. So there's lots of ways you could cut this back. Or you could go even crazier if you wanted. So that's my tip and trick for you on this one, is just, do what's right for your occasion and make the best of what you have. I am going to try and pick you up a little bit here so you can kind of see an overhead view of this. Just so you can kind of see everything here. So that's kind of the full view of things there. So this is how you put together a cheese platter. I hope you folks like this. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you had a wonderful day, and please come back and see us soon.